Hey loves, it's Britt, and in this video I'm going to talk about a natal aspect actually. I haven't done a video on a natal aspect in a while, so you guys can request natal aspects as well for my videos. So this one I actually do have in my own natal chart, so I've spent a lot of time studying it and I have observed it in many people as well because you tend to notice this aspect in people. Yeah, it can be very noticeable. So the aspect I'm going to talk about in this video is the moon conjunct to Mars in the natal chart. So with this aspect, when we have the moon, which is our deepest emotional self and how we feel, our heart, our inner child, our early upbringing, and even past life energy, being conjunct with Mars, the fiery, aggressive planet of how we go after what we want, how we take action, kind of like our mojo in the world, you know, the very masculine energy of Mars with Moon. This is a person that is very powerfully activated in their energy. Like, people with the moon conjunct to Mars can actually be physically warm. Like, there's a heat to this aspect. It's very steamy. Like, the emotions are like being torched with a fiery flame, and this person really is an intense person, but it's a different kind of intensity. It's not like a Scorpio moon intensity or a Pluto moon intensity. It's more of like a more Aryan intensity, like a Mars intensity of like just the reactions are instantaneous. Like this person just gets really fired up about things and has a hard time being low key or chill. Like, there's a lot of fiery passion, and you can even see it like in moon conjunct Mars people. Like, you can probably notice it in me. I have this natal aspect within 1 degree, or at 1 degree, and they just have like a fire and enthusiasm in what they're doing if they're passionate about what they're doing, which usually you're not going to see too many moon conjunct Mars people engaging in things that they're not passionate about doing. That's one of the gifts of this aspect, is that it really it almost like has manifestation power in a sense, where like, because the emotions are so heated and inflamed, which we'll talk about the negatives about that too, but because of that, it's almost like people with the moon conjunct Mars have like an innate knowing that they are the creator of their life. Like, they want to go out there and get it and dominate life. And so this aspect can be lacking in like feminine energy, in the sense of like, oh, I'm going to wait and see, or I'm going to, wait till it's the right time, and I'm going to, feel it out and kind of, be receptive. It can be lacking in receptivity because with the emotions inflamed with the Martian energy, we really feel like it's urgent. Like that song, Urgent. That song I always loved. By Foreigner. It's sort of similar to how a moon conjunct Mars person feels when they want something. It's urgent. They want to go and get it now. They don't care who's in the way. They don't care what people think about them, or how others are perceiving them. They just want to go after what they want, and they also don't understand at times why other people are not like that. So there's and you have to look at what sign this is taking place in, what house it's taking place in. Like, I have a really good friend with moon conjunct Mars, also very close by degree, in a different sign, but her conjunction, we've talked about this lots, is like approaching and mine is separating, and so she feels like she's more aggressive than me. And I could see that she can be very intense and more angry, I feel like. But my Moon Mars conjunction is also a part of a Yod or Yod, and it's got in conjunctions to Saturn and Neptune. So it's kind of, I feel like, nullified in some ways, although I definitely have the fiery energy still. But you have to kind of look at, you know, what all is going on with the aspect. That's one theory, that if it's approaching, it's more powerful, it's more heated, there's more anger than if it's a separating aspect. So like when Moon is past Mars by degree, that's separating. When a Moon is before Mars, that's approaching. So that's just one theory. I don't even really, you know, I don't know fully what I believe. That there's these characteristics definitely apply to both separating and approaching. But that's just something me and my good friend, who's also a very gifted astrologer, we've talked about lots. Because we're always talking about this aspect, always. Because when you have this aspect, it's like, and you're an astrologer, you can be kind of obsessed with it, because there is such a power in this aspect. It is a powerful connection to have. So it's a powerful aspect to have, but it's not necessarily comfortable or harmonious. Because when you think of the differing natures, we have the Moon, which is like the most feminine planet, the most emotional planet, rules Cancer, and then we have Mars, the most aggressive planet, the most masculine planet, arguably, ruling Aries. So this is actually an uncomfortable position for Moon to be. It can show that in the childhood upbringing, there was a lot of fighting or walking on eggshells. Sometimes it can specifically show the mother was someone to be feared or angry, or the person that we were walking around on eggshells around. But it could also be the father, or just the energy of the childhood home was very heated or very sexual or very lacking in nurturing emotional qualities that the Moon person felt they needed. And so very early on, the Moon person, or the person with this conjunction, this isn't a synastry aspect, I don't know why I said the Moon person, the person with the Moon Mars conjunction, very early on realizes that they have to be on the offensive. They have to be on guard. They have to be ready to fight at any moment, and be not just ready to fight, but ready to perceive the environment and all the stimulus, like for safety. This is an aspect that can feel unsafe very easily. So there is kind of an edginess with Moon Mars people. They're kind of always on the hunt, you know, they're looking around for potential threats. And a lot of Moon Mars people can actually end up being the first to attack, because they're so ready for that attack that sometimes, in some cases, they can perceive an attack when there wasn't actually an attack, because the emotions are inflamed with this heated, fiery energy of Mars. So a lot of times Moon Mars people can perceive, well, they perceive everything with a great intensity, kind of like they're in a battle or a war, and they like, there's just so much fiery, flaming passion that on the negative side, yeah, this can actually be the person that starts fights. I have observed this in people who have violent tendencies, where, you know, they're just so ready to defend their loved ones or themselves or whatever the perceived threat is, that they actually end up being the one attacking others. And then also they can sort of be unconscious of this and not realize this behavior. This can be, Moon aspects can be so unconscious and so deeply embedded in us that we don't even realize that we're doing that. So on the negative side, there can be anger issues, violent tendencies. People can feel actually like they're walking on eggshells around the Moon Mars person, which is funny because that's what the Moon Mars person felt like in their childhood, likely. So It's a really interesting aspect. Um, some of the good things about it is, like I said, the passion. When they want something, when they're inspired by something, when they love someone, um, there is nothing that they won't do, because this isn't like an emotionally neutral placement either. So this position of Moon and Mars can be super romantic and super inspiring, and just totally a sight to see. Like, people notice people with Moon Mars conjunctions because there is a charisma. There's a fiery sexual nature that's very steamy and very felt by people. The moon sign can show like our aura, and people with the moon conjunct to Mars, their aura is it's hot, it's steamy, it's sexual, it's passionate, it's definitely felt by others. Now, it can also be kind of intimidating. This isn't the person who is taken lightly. You know, people can love or hate the person with the Moon Mars conjunction, because it does have an intensity, and they can be very blunt and straightforward. Like, this is not the kind of person that beats around the bush. This is the kind of person that says, you know, exactly what is on their mind, and then wonders, why were people hurt by that? I was just being honest, right? So it can do them good to learn to think before acting. That's something that they need to learn, is like, take 5 seconds, breathe, you know, before stepping into the next mode of action, or, you know, before they're going to lash out in anger at someone, or attack someone in a very sexual way, or, you know, having that pause in between actions, self-reflection, meditation. You know, these are all things that the Moon Mars person probably early in their life will think are pointless or useless, but as they realize as time goes on, that is what they're needing, is a little bit of space in between those reactions, because this aspect, it's like instant, 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 and they can end up doing a lot of things that they regret, because when the emotions are activated, Mars is also activated. So whenever we have a conjunction, they're both working at the same time. So having that much fire in the emotions can be very good for creating your life and having power and charisma and influence and, you know, decisiveness and knowing exactly what you want and going after it. But it can also lead to impulsive actions and regretted actions, what the Moon Mars person tends to learn. So yeah, learning to have that space in between reaction in whatever way feels good. Another thing, physical activity is really good for people with the Moon Mars conjunction, to let some of that fire out, let some of that steam out, especially if it's in fire signs. There's a lot of physical energy and a need to be very physical. These people can have loads of energy. They can be athletic as well, specifically in the fire signs, but in all signs, they're because the reactions are so instantaneous. Like, it can be really good for being an athlete, even competitive sports, right? Like, this is a really good use of that energy. But also the person is very emotionally involved with what they're doing. So this could be the person that doesn't like to lose. So that could be a good thing. Or, you know, they could be the poor loser, right? So it depends on the person, like what level of involvement is going to come out of this conjunction. But at the highest expression, this can be a person who really acts with integrity, because their emotional self is right there with their strength, and they're courageous, and they, you know, they aren't so much caring what other people think of them with this aspect, because their pure, honest action is more important than the opinions of others. So they can actually end up being a person of like, yeah, high integrity, truthfulness, um, honesty, like, yeah, really kind of like an open book with this aspect. And like there's just loads of creative energy and sexual energy. They can be very passionate lovers who love with all their heart, like their relationships, their love relationships, like I said, there's nothing they won't do. um and yeah, they're really sexually passionate people as well, because we have the emotional needs of the moon being connected with Mars. So they have an emotional need to have lots of regular, steamy, romantic sex, right? And so, depending on what stronger, moon or Mars, the sex doesn't always have to be romantic or loving either. But they do need that release, and they get a lot of emotional soothing from the sexual act. So they usually are quite sexual people that have had experiences there, because of how quick they respond to. So they respond to other people's sexual impulses either with like immediate yes or no. Like it with Moon Mars people, you're either a yes or you're a no. Like they know what they want, and if they want you, they want you now, and if they don't want you, there's nothing you can do to convince them. So they definitely know what they want, and they go after what they want, and they can be more of the initiator and more of the aggressor in their relationships, even women, depending on what sign it's taking place in. So women with this aspect can feel at home with men. They're quite understood by men. They can get along quite well with men in general, although they can be lacking in those more nurturing, receptive qualities. Like it, yeah, like I said, it can be hard for Moon Mars people to wait or relax or, yeah, like be that kind of more calm energy, because they're very fired up. But the right person will, love this and, really love their energy. Like they could, what's, I was just thinking of some song, I don't know. They could wake up someone from the dead with their energy, because that's how energetic it is. Anyways, yeah, and men with this conjunction tend to like a woman who is fiery as well, which can create conflicts because, they are quite fiery themselves, and then that's what they attract in their marriage relationship too. So it's definitely not a boring relationship when you're with someone with the Moon Mars conjunction. There's a lot of heat, and they actually are pretty simple. Like people with the Moon Mars conjunction are simple, straightforward people, and they don't understand all this beating around the bush and all of like lying and like sneakiness, and like people with the Moon Mars conjunction are essentially simple creatures with simple needs. And that's another thing too that they say about the Moon Mars conjunction is like, they maybe when they were younger, when they were born, it could have been a difficult or traumatic birth, or they could have felt like they could just never get enough like milk from their mother or food from their mother. So that this person can also be like basic needs are sort of an issue with the Moon Mars people. Like it's like you're like hangry, you're so hungry, you're just like gotta eat or you're gonna murder someone. That's common with Moon Mars people. That, like I said, about the sexual impulse is very like need it now kind of thing too. And also like the drive for security, like everything that the Moon Mars person desires feels like life or death, like which can be bad and good, right? Like this is a very driven person, but that's what the basic needs feel like for a Moon Mars person. It feels like if they do not get what they emotionally crave, like they will die. And it comes from like the childhood. There was something Sometimes the child was lacking in something, like lacking in food or nurturing or whatever they needed. So whatever that was that they felt they were lacking, they have an intense craving, and it's like an instantaneous like need that now. Like, and it can sometimes show up with food too. So yeah, I would advise people with this conjunction to, like I said, think, because they don't think, they just act with this conjunction. And think before they speak, think before they act, think before major decisions, you know, have a waiting period, right? And really, like, yeah, try some type of calming exercise or simultaneously with some aggressive workout, because they kind of need both. And I think that's really the best way to make use of this conjunction, is to have these outlets and have some type of relaxation practice, and realize like you're kind of an intense person, and not everybody is like this, right? Like, I think Moon Mars people can be so into themselves. It can be sort of a narcissistic energy in ways, because the emotional needs feel so urgent, right? That sometimes they can just, you know, run over everybody in the way and just think, well, I was dying, I needed to get my need met, you know? And like, people will be like, well, you can't just, you know, act like that or whatever. Like, it's kind of like, can sometimes be like a baby having a tantrum, you know? And I'm not putting you guys down, because this is my natal aspect too. So it just waiting, having a waiting period is so important, I think, with this aspect. And that will ensure that like you're not doing things that you regret. Like, I try to do some type of meditation or breathing exercise every day, and do like relaxation exercises and stuff, along with a physical activity type of workout too. And I feel like I don't really do things that I regret so much anymore. But I used to do a lot of things that I regretted through my impulsive actions and stuff. So it's good to kind of think about things when you have this, and think about sometimes what you're saying too, because sometimes you can just be very blunt and hurtful. But in the best ways, you know, you can actually be like one of the most honest people around, and you know, you tell it like it is. You tell people exactly what you're thinking. You know, there's no game playing with Moon Mars people. So there's a very simple directness that is kind of like a breath of fresh air, really. And the passion can really be used for manifestation purposes. Like, when you want something, there is nothing in the world that will stop you from getting it. And that's powerful, because a lot of people don't even know what they want, and they, you know, beat around the bush and think about it too long and don't take action ever. Well, that's not really a Moon Mars person's problem. So it can be very powerful, and yeah, there can be a lot of charisma as well, because it feels good to be around a warm person, right? It's like Moon Mars people can really be the life of the party, and yeah, be that warmth, that sunlight, that burning hot sun, that people crave, and people can become addicted to Moon Mars people because of their power and their light and their fire. So yeah, this is a pretty long video. I'd love to know your guys' experience of this natal aspect. Is it like this at all? How was my interpretation of it? And yeah, I'm doing your requests. Let me know if you have any requests for me. And we'll talk soon. Love you guys. Thanks for watching. Bye.